The wind howled like 1,000 angry wolves as Rachel stumbled through the snow. Her legs felt like they were made of stone, heavy and cold. Each step was harder than the last. She couldn't feel her fingers anymore. They were just numb sticks at the end of her arms. It had been 3 hours since her car slid off the road. 3 hours of walking through this frozen nightmare. The snow was up to her knees now, and every gust of wind felt like needles stabbing her face. Her coat was soaked through. Her jeans were stiff with ice. Rachel had left everything behind that morning. Just grabbed her purse, got in the car, and drove. She didn't have a plan. She just knew she had to get away, far away. The mountain road seemed like a good idea at the time. Nobody would look for her there. But then the storm came out of nowhere, and the car started sliding, and before she knew it, she was stuck in a ditch with snow piling up around her. She tried to stay in the car at first, but the heater stopped working and the cold started seeping in. She knew she would freeze if she stayed there. So she started walking, following the road, hoping to find help. Now she was losing hope. Her body was shutting down. She could feel it. The shivering had stopped, which she knew was a bad sign. She'd read somewhere that when you stop shivering, it means your body is giving up. Her thoughts were getting fuzzy. She kept thinking about her bed back home. How warm it was. How soft. Then she saw it. Just a tiny dot of yellow light in the distance. At first, she thought she was imagining it, her mind playing tricks on her. But as she forced herself to keep walking, the light got bigger. It was real, a cabin. Someone was home. Rachel felt a surge of energy. She pushed through the snow faster now. Her heart was pounding. The cabin was small, made of dark wood with smoke coming from the chimney. There was a truck parked nearby, covered in snow. Light glowed from the windows. She reached the porch and almost fell climbing the steps. Her legs barely worked anymore. With what little strength she had left, she knocked on the door. Then knocked again, harder. Her vision was getting blurry. She knocked one more time, then felt her legs give out. She slumped against the door frame, too tired to care what happened next. The door opened suddenly and she almost fell inside. Strong hands caught her. A man's voice said something, but the words sounded far away, like she was underwater. She felt herself being lifted, carried. Then warmth, blessed warmth. When Rachel opened her eyes, she was on a couch in front of a fireplace. Heavy blankets were piled on top of her. The room was spinning a little. She could smell wood smoke and coffee. Her body hurt everywhere. Her fingers and toes were burning as feeling came back to them. A man appeared, kneeling beside the couch. He had dark hair, rough stubble on his jaw, and concerned eyes. He looked to be in his 30s, wearing a flannel shirt and jeans. Working man's hands. "Can you hear me?" he asked. His voice was deep but gentle. Rachel tried to speak, but her teeth were chattering too hard. She managed a small nod. "Good. That's good," the man said. "You're going to be okay. I'm Tom. You're safe here. Just rest. I'll get you something warm to drink." He disappeared into what must have been the kitchen. Rachel looked around the cabin. It was simple but clean. Wood walls, a stone fireplace, furniture that had seen better days but looked comfortable. There were horse pictures on the walls. A saddle hanging in the corner. This was a rancher's place. Tom came back with a mug of soup. He helped her sit up, keeping the blankets wrapped around her. "Sip it slowly," he said. "Your body needs to warm up gradually." The soup was chicken broth, simple but hot. It felt like heaven going down. Rachel's hand shook as she held the mug, and Tom steadied it for her. They sat in silence while she drank. She was too exhausted to talk, too cold, too scared of everything. After she finished the soup, Tom brought her dry clothes. A sweatshirt and sweatpants, way too big for her, but clean and warm. "Bathroom's through there," he said, pointing. "Take your time. I'll make up the bed in the spare room." Rachel changed in the bathroom, her fingers fumbling with the frozen zipper of her coat. When she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. Her face was pale, her lips almost blue. Her dark hair was tangled and wet. She looked like a ghost. She came out to find Tom adding more wood to the fire. "The spare room's ready," he said. "You should sleep. We can talk in the morning," but Rachel didn't move. She stood there, wrapped in his too big clothes, and felt tears starting to come. She'd been holding them back for so long. Holding everything back. Now in this stranger's cabin, with warmth and kindness surrounding her, everything cracked open. "Thank you," she whispered. Her voice was rough from the cold. "I don't know what would have happened if—" Tom held up a hand. "Don't think about that. You're here now. You're safe." Rachel nodded, wiping her eyes. She wanted to explain. to tell him why she was out there in the storm, why she was running. But the words wouldn't come, and she was so tired. She let Tom guide her to the spare room. It was small, with a simple bed and a window that showed nothing but white snow outside. The sheets smelled like lavender. There was an extra quilt folded at the foot of the bed. "If you need anything, just call out," Tom said from the doorway. "I'm right across the hall. The storm's supposed to last a few more days, so you're stuck here for a bit. But don't worry about that now. Just sleep." Rachel climbed into the bed, and it felt like the most comfortable thing in the world. She was asleep before Tom even closed the door. Outside, the storm continued to rage. Snow piled up against the windows. The wind shook the cabin walls. But inside, Rachel slept deeply for the first time in months. She didn't hear the storm. She didn't dream about the past. She just slept, warm and safe in a stranger's spare room while the blizzard tried its best to bury the world outside. Tom sat by the fire for a long time that night, listening to the storm. He'd seen the fear in the woman's eyes, the way she'd flinched when he first touched her arm, the bruises on her wrists that she tried to hide. He'd lived alone on this ranch for 5 years now, ever since his divorce. He knew when someone was running from something. He'd been there himself once. He didn't know her story yet, didn't know her name or where she came from, but he knew she needed help. And out here in Montana, you didn't turn people away, especially not in a storm like this. His grandmother had taught him that. You take care of people. You ask questions later. The fire crackled and popped. Tom finished his coffee and headed to bed. Tomorrow they'd talk. Tomorrow he'd figure out what she needed. But tonight they'd both just rest. The storm would pass eventually. It always did. And when it did, they'd figure out what came next. One step at a time. That's how you survived out here. One step at a time. Rachel woke to the smell of coffee and bacon. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then it all came rushing back. The storm. The walk through the snow. The cabin. The man who saved her. She sat up slowly. Her whole body ached. Her muscles felt like they'd been beaten with a hammer. But she was warm. She was dry. She was alive. Through the small window, she could see snow still falling. Not as hard as yesterday, but steady. The world outside was completely white. No roads visible. No landmarks. Just snow and more snow. Rachel got out of bed and found her clothes from yesterday hanging on a chair. Tom must have put them there to dry. Her coat was still damp, but her jeans were dry enough. She got dressed and stood at the door for a long moment, gathering her courage. What was she going to tell him? This stranger who'd taken her in, he'd have questions. Of course he would. And she'd have to decide how much to reveal, how much to trust. She opened the door and walked into the main room. Tom was at the stove flipping bacon. He turned when he heard her. "Morning. How are you feeling?" "Sore, but better. Thank you." Rachel stood awkwardly by the hallway, not sure what to do with her hands. "Sit down. Breakfast is almost ready." Tom gestured to the small wooden table. "Coffee?" "Please." He poured her a cup and set it down. Rachel wrapped her hands around the warm mug. The coffee was strong and black. She added sugar from the bowl on the table and watched Tom finish cooking. He moved around the kitchen with easy confidence. This was a man comfortable in his space. He put eggs and bacon on 2 plates, added toast, and brought them to the table. They ate in silence for a few minutes. Rachel was hungrier than she'd realized. The food was simple but good. Real food, home-cooked. She couldn't remember the last time someone had made her breakfast. "So," Tom said finally, setting down his fork, "I don't mean to pry, but I need to know your name at least. And if someone's looking for you, if I need to call someone." Rachel's stomach tightened. Here it was, the moment she'd been dreading. "My name is Rachel," she said quietly. "Rachel Bennett, and no, please don't call anyone." Tom studied her face. "Are you in trouble? With the law?" "No, nothing like that." "Then what?" "Family looking for you?" Rachel stared down at her plate. Her throat felt tight. "My husband. He'll be looking for me." Tom was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "And you don't want to be found." It wasn't a question. Rachel shook her head. "Okay," Tom said simply. He went back to eating his breakfast. Rachel looked up, surprised. "That's it? You're not going to ask why?" Tom shrugged. "Figure you'll tell me if you want to." "None of my business otherwise, but I need to know if someone dangerous is going to show up at my door." "He doesn't know where I am," Rachel said quickly. Nobody does. I didn't tell anyone I was leaving. I just got in the car and drove. Where were you heading? Anywhere, nowhere, I don't know. I just needed to get away. Tom nodded slowly. He pushed back from the table and refilled his coffee cup. The storm's not letting up. Radio says it'll be at least 2 more days before the roads are clear. Maybe 3. You're stuck here until then. Rachel felt panic rising in her chest. After that? Will you take me to town? That's the plan. Once we can get the truck out. No. The word came out sharper than she meant it to. Rachel took a breath. Please. I can't go to town. People will ask questions. Someone might recognize me. My husband has friends everywhere. He'll find me. Tom leaned against the counter, arms crossed. So what do you want to do? Rachel stood up, her hands trembling. This was it. She had to convince him. Had to make him understand. Let me stay. Just for a while. I'll work. I'll earn my keep. I can cook, clean, whatever you need. I'll be useful. Just please don't send me away. She hated how desperate she sounded. Hated begging. But she had nowhere else to go. No money, no plan. This cabin in the middle of nowhere was the safest she'd felt in years. Tom looked at her for a long moment. Rachel could see him thinking it through. A strange woman shows up at his door, running from her husband, asking to stay. It was asking a lot. Too much, probably. I can't pay you, Tom said finally. Ranch barely makes enough as it is. Rachel's heart jumped. I don't need money. Just a place to stay, food, that's all. It's isolated out here. Nearest neighbor is 5 miles away. Town is 15. Gets lonely. I don't mind lonely. Lonely is good. Tom rubbed his jaw, considering. Winter's the slow season, but there's still work. Animals to feed. Stalls to clean. Fences to check. It's hard work. I'm not afraid of hard work. And when spring comes, when the road's clear and everything thaws out, Rachel hesitated. She hadn't thought that far ahead. I don't know. Maybe by then I'll have figured something out. Maybe I'll have saved enough to go somewhere far away. Start over. Tom walked to the window and looked out at the falling snow. Rachel held her breath, waiting. Every second of silence felt like an hour. Finally, Tom turned back to her. All right. You can stay through the winter. Help around the ranch. We'll figure out the rest later. Relief flooded through Rachel so strongly her knees almost buckled. Thank you. Thank you so much. You won't regret this, I promise. I'll work hard. I'll stay out of your way. Tom held up a hand. Some ground rules. First, I need you to be straight with me. If your husband's the violent type, I need to know. I've got a right to know what I might be dealing with. Rachel swallowed hard. He never hit me. Not exactly. He just controlled everything. Where I went. Who I talked to. What I wore. He'd get angry over nothing. Throw things. Punch walls. Tell me I was worthless. That nobody else would want me. That I'd be nothing without him. Her voice cracked on the last part. She hadn't said it out loud before. Hadn't put words to the ears of walking on eggshells. Of making herself smaller and smaller just to avoid his anger. Tom's expression softened. That's hitting, Rachel. Maybe not with fists, but it's still hitting. Rachel nodded, tears threatening. I know, I finally figured that out. Second rule, Tom continued. You pull your weight. I'm not running a charity. If you're staying, you work. I will. Third rule, if you decide to leave, you tell me. Don't just disappear. I'll help you get where you're going. Deal? Deal. Tom extended his hand. Rachel shook it, his grip firm and warm. All right then, Tom said. Welcome to the ranch. Let me show you around and we'll figure out what needs doing. As Tom led her through the cabin, explaining where things were kept, Rachel felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. It was small and fragile, like a candle flame in the wind. But it was there, she'd found a safe place. Maybe just for the winter. Maybe just until the snow melted. But for now, it was enough. Outside, the storm continued to fall, covering her tracks, hiding her trail. Inside, Rachel started learning how to live again. The days fell into a rhythm. Rachel woke before dawn, just like Tom did. She'd make coffee while he went out to check on the horses. By the time he came back, stamping snow off his boots, she had breakfast ready. Eggs, toast, sometimes pancakes. Nothing fancy, but hot and filling. After breakfast, they'd work. Tom showed her how to break ice in the water troughs, how to measure out feed for the horses, how to muck out stalls without getting kicked. Her hands blistered at first. Her back ached constantly, but she didn't complain. She'd made a promise and she meant to keep it. The work was hard, but Rachel found she liked it. There was something honest about it. Something real. You put in the effort and you saw the results. The horses were fed. The stalls were clean. Simple as that. No mind games. No walking on eggshells. Just work. Tom was patient with her. He showed her things once, maybe twice, then let her figure it out. He didn't hover. Didn't criticize when she made mistakes. Just said, try it this way, and moved on. It was the kind of respect she hadn't experienced in years. The storm finally broke on the third day. The sun came out bright and blinding on all that white snow. The world looked clean. Brand new, but the roads were still buried. The drifts were higher than the truck. We're snowed in for at least another week, Tom said at dinner that night. Maybe 2. Plow won't make it out here until they clear the main roads first. Rachel felt relief and guilt at the same time. Relief because she wasn't ready to leave. Guilt because she knew she was imposing on Tom's hospitality. I'm sorry. I know this isn't what you signed up for. Tom shrugged. I was going to be snowed in anyway. Might as well have help with the work. But Rachel noticed things, small things. The way Tom sometimes went quiet at dinner, staring at nothing. The way he'd stand at the window looking out at the snow-covered mountains. The way he kept his distance, always careful not to get too close. One evening, about a week into her stay, Rachel was doing dishes when she dropped a plate. It shattered on the floor with a loud crash. She froze, her heart instantly racing. Every muscle in her body tensed, waiting for the explosion. The yelling. The anger. But Tom just looked up from his book. You okay? Rachel realized she was shaking. Her breath was coming too fast. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. I'll clean it up. I'll replace it. Tom set down his book and stood up slowly. Rachel, it's fine. It's just a plate. No, you don't understand. I broke it. I should have been more careful. Her voice was rising, panic taking over. Tom held up his hand, staying where he was. Hey, look at me. It's okay. Accidents happen. I'm not mad. Rachel looked at him, really looked at him. His face was calm. Concerned, but not angry. Not even close to angry. She felt something break inside her. All the fear she'd been carrying, all the tension came pouring out. She sank down onto the floor, right there among the broken pieces, and started crying. Tom waited a moment, then carefully walked over, avoiding the sharp edges. He sat down on the floor a few feet away from her. Not too close, giving her space. Take your time, he said quietly. They sat there for a while, Rachel crying and Tom just being present. When the tears finally slowed, Rachel wiped her face with her sleeve. I'm sorry. That was stupid. It's just a plate. It wasn't about the plate, Tom said. Rachel shook her head. No, it wasn't. She took a shaky breath. He used to get so angry when I broke things, or spilled things, or made any kind of mistake. He'd yell for hours, tell me how careless I was, how stupid, how useless. That's not okay, Tom said simply. I know that now. But when you're in it, when it's every single day, you start to believe it. You start to think maybe he's right. Maybe you really are that careless. That's stupid. You're not. Rachel looked at him. How do you know? Because you've been here over a week. You work hard. You're careful with the animals. You keep the place clean. You're smart and capable. And even if you dropped a plate every single day, you still wouldn't be any of those things he called you. Something in Rachel's chest loosened. She'd been so scared of making mistakes, of giving Tom a reason to regret taking her in. But here he was, sitting on the floor with her, saying it was okay. That she was okay. Can I tell you something? Tom said after a moment. Rachel nodded. My ex-wife. She wasn't violent or anything like your husband, but she had a way of making me feel small. Like nothing I did was good enough. I worked 18-hour days trying to make this ranch profitable, and she'd complain that I wasn't home enough. Then when I was home, she'd say I didn't make enough money, didn't have enough ambition, didn't understand her needs. He paused, looking down at his hands. Took me a long time to realize it wasn't about what I did or didn't do. She was just unhappy, and she wanted me to be unhappy too. Some people are like that. They need someone to blame for their own problems. Rachel listened, seeing Tom in a new light. He understood. Maybe not exactly what she'd been through, but close enough. He knew what it felt like to never be good enough. How did you get out? She asked. She left me. Found a banker in town with more money and better hours. Honestly? It was the best thing that ever happened to me. Hurt like hell at the time, but looking back, she set me free. Do you ever see her? Sometimes. Town small. We're civil. But I learned my lesson. I'm better off alone than with someone who makes me feel less than I am. Rachel thought about that. Is that why you helped me? Because you understood? Tom smiled slightly. Partly. But mostly because it was the right thing to do. You needed help. I could give it. Simple as that. They cleaned up the broken plate together. Tom swept while Rachel held the dustpan. It felt like more than just cleaning up a mess. It felt like something shifting between them. An understanding forming. That night, as Rachel lay in bed, she thought about what Tom had said. About being better off alone than with someone who diminishes you. She'd spent so many years believing she needed her husband, that she couldn't survive without him. He'd told her that so many times she'd started to believe it, but here she was. Surviving. More than surviving. She was working, contributing, learning new things. And for the first time in years, she felt like maybe she wasn't worthless. Maybe she actually had value. The next morning, Rachel got up with new determination. When Tom came in from feeding the horses, she had a full breakfast waiting. Coffee, eggs, bacon, and fresh biscuits she'd made from scratch using his grandmother's recipe book. Tom looked at the spread, surprised. What's all this? Just felt like cooking, Rachel said. Figured you deserved a good meal. They sat down to eat, and this time the silence was comfortable. Easy. Two people who'd been through their own versions of hell, finding a bit of peace in the simple act of sharing a meal. Outside, the sun was shining. The snow was starting to melt just a little. Spring was still months away, but winter didn't last forever. Nothing did. Not even the bad times. Rachel was starting to believe that might be true. 6 weeks passed and winter settled in hard. The snow kept coming, piling up until it reached halfway up the cabin windows. The temperature dropped so low that Tom had to bring extra heaters into the barn for the horses. Every morning was a battle against the cold, but inside the cabin, something warm was growing. Trust, friendship, the easy companionship of two people learning to exist in the same space. Rachel discovered she was good with the horses. Really good. There was one in particular, a brown mare named Rosie who'd been skittish when Rachel first arrived. The horse would shy away from everyone, even Tom. But Rachel had patience. She'd spend extra time in Rosie's stall, talking softly, moving slowly, never pushing. You've got a gift, Tom said one morning, watching Rachel brush Rosie. The mare stood perfectly still, actually relaxed. She hasn't let anyone do that in 2 years. Not since she got spooked by a rattlesnake. Rachel smiled, running the brush along Rosie's neck. She just needed someone to listen, to understand she's afraid. Tom leaned against the stall door. You identify with her? Maybe. We've both been through things. Both a little jumpy. You're less jumpy now than when you first got here, Tom observed. Don't flinch as much when I come into a room. Rachel hadn't realized he'd noticed. This place feels safe. You feel safe. Something passed across Tom's face, pleasure mixed with sadness. I'm glad. That's important. As the weeks went on, they fell into deeper conversations. While doing chores during meals in the evenings by the fire, Tom told her about growing up on this ranch with his parents and grandmother. How he'd left for college thinking he wanted something different, something bigger, but the ranch kept calling him back. My dad died when I was 25, Tom said one night, staring into the fire. Heart attack. Just dropped in the middle of feeding the horses one morning. My mom couldn't run the place alone, so I came back. Thought it would be temporary. But then Mom passed a few years later. Cancer. My grandmother lived until she was 90, sharp as a tack until the end. That's when you got married? Rachel asked. Year after Gran died. Met Beth in town. She seemed to like the ranch at first. Or maybe she just liked the idea of it. Reality was different. Too quiet. Too lonely. Too much work. She wanted excitement, city life. I couldn't give her that. Rachel understood that feeling. Of wanting something you couldn't have. Of being blamed for not being someone you weren't. Do you ever wish you'd left? Sold the ranch and moved? Tom thought about it. Sometimes. When things got really bad with Beth. But this place is in my blood. My great-grandfather built this cabin with his own hands. 3 generations of my family worked this land. I can't just walk away from that. That's not a bad thing, Rachel said. Knowing where you belong. Where do you belong, Rachel? The question caught her off guard. She'd been so focused on escaping where she'd been, she hadn't thought about where she actually wanted to be. I don't know anymore. I grew up in Seattle. Big city, lots of people. Met my husband at a coffee shop where I was working. He seemed so confident, so sure of himself. I thought that's what I needed. Someone strong. But he wasn't strong, Tom said quietly. Strong people don't need to tear others down. No, they don't. Rachel pulled her knees up to her chest. I keep thinking about all the signs I missed. The way he'd get jealous if I talked to other men. The way he'd show up at my work unexpectedly to check on me. I thought it meant he loved me, that he cared. It meant he was controlling you. I know that now, but at the time I was young, naive. By the time I realized what was happening, I was already trapped. He'd convinced me to quit my job, move across the country to some small town where he got a new job. Away from all my friends and family. Suddenly I had no money of my own, no way to leave, nobody to call for help. Tom listened without interrupting. Rachel appreciated that about him. He didn't try to fix things or offer solutions. He just listened. The day I left, Rachel continued, he was at work. I'd been planning it for months, hiding $20 here, $30 there whenever I could. I had maybe $500 total. I took one suitcase, got in the car, and just drove. I didn't even know where I was going. Just away. That took courage. It took desperation. There's a difference. No, Tom said firmly. It took courage. Desperation might have pushed you, but courage is what got you out that door. Courage is what kept you walking through that storm. Courage is what made you knock on my door instead of giving up. Rachel felt tears sting her eyes. She hadn't thought of it as courage. She'd felt like a coward, running away instead of standing up to him. But maybe Tom was right. Maybe leaving was the bravest thing she'd ever done. Tom started teaching her to ride that week. The snow had packed down enough in some areas to make a trail. He saddled up his horse Thunder, a big gray gelding, and Rosie for Rachel. Just relax, Tom said as Rachel climbed into the saddle. Rosie knows what she's doing. Trust her. Trust, that word again. Rachel was learning to do that. Slowly. Carefully. She trusted Rosie. She trusted Tom. She was even starting to trust herself a little. They rode around the property, Tom pointing out boundaries and landmarks. The creek that ran through the eastern pasture, frozen solid now. The stand of pine trees where deer liked to bed down. The ridge where you could see for miles on a clear day. The world was beautiful out here, clean and wild and free. Rachel felt something loosening in her chest. Something she hadn't even known was tight. For the first time in years, she could breathe deeply. You're a natural, Tom called out as they rode side by side. Rachel was getting the hang of it, moving with Rosie's rhythm instead of fighting it. It's easier than I thought it would be, Rachel called back. Just let the horse do the work. Exactly. Control isn't about force. It's about communication. Partnership. Rachel thought about that. Her husband had believed in force, in dominance, in making her submit to his will. But real control, real strength wasn't about that at all. It was about working together, respecting each other. That night at dinner, Tom brought out a bottle of wine he'd been saving. Thought we could celebrate, he said. Celebrate what? You've been here 6 weeks. You kept your promise. Worked hard. Pulled your weight. And you're turning into a pretty decent ranch hand. Rachel smiled. Pretty decent? That's high praise. Don't let it go to your head, Tom said with a grin. They toasted to survival, to second chances, to unexpected friendships. Rachel felt lighter than she had in years. She wasn't just surviving here. She was living, really living. Later, as she lay in bed, Rachel thought about the future. Spring would come eventually. The roads would clear. She'd have decisions to make. But for now, for tonight, she was exactly where she needed to be. Safe, warm, valued, trusted. For the first time since she could remember, Rachel looked forward to tomorrow. Whatever it might bring, she was ready to face it. She wasn't the same person who'd stumbled through that storm 6 weeks ago. That person had been broken, afraid, lost. This person was finding her strength. Step by step, day by day, she was becoming someone new, someone stronger, and it felt good. 3 months. Rachel had been at the ranch for 3 months. Winter was starting to ease up, though snow still covered everything. The days were getting longer. The sun felt warmer. Change was coming. Rachel felt different too, stronger. Her hands were calloused now from work. Her arms had muscle she'd never had before. She could lift hay bales without struggling. Could ride Rosie without thinking about every movement. She'd found a rhythm here, a peace. But peace never lasts forever. It started with a phone call. Tom had driven into town that morning for supplies. Rachel stayed back to handle the morning feeding. She liked having the place to herself sometimes. The quiet, the routine. Just her and the horses. Tom came back earlier than expected. Rachel was in the barn when she heard his truck pull up fast, gravel spraying. That wasn't like him. Tom never drove fast, never rushed. She came out to find him getting out of the truck, his face serious. "We need to talk." Rachel's stomach dropped. Those 4 words. She knew those words. Nothing good ever followed them. They went inside. Tom poured himself coffee, his movements tense. Rachel sat at the table, her heart pounding. This was it. He was going to tell her she had to leave. She'd overstayed her welcome. "Been too much trouble." "At the feed store," Tom said finally. There was a man asking questions, showing people a photo on his phone, asking if anyone had seen this woman. Rachel felt the blood drain from her face. What did she look like? In the photo, dark hair, brown eyes, about 5'6". Tom looked at her. "It was you, Rachel. Your husband is looking for you." The room spun. Rachel grabbed the edge of the table. No. She'd been so careful. Hadn't used her credit cards. Hadn't called anyone. How did he find her? How did he even know which direction she'd gone? Did anyone tell him anything? Her voice came out as a whisper. "Not that I heard. Most folks in town mind their own business, but there's always someone who talks, someone who wants to help." Tom sat down across from her. "What's his name?" Brian Bennett." "What's he look like?" Rachel closed her eyes, seeing his face. She'd tried so hard to forget it. Tall, about 6 feet. Brown hair, keeps it short. Clean shaven. He's good looking, charming, people like him. He knows how to make a good impression. Is he the violent type? Is he going to show up here with a weapon? I don't know. He never hit me, but he has a temper. Throws things. Punches walls. I don't know what he'd do if he found me. Rachel felt tears starting. I thought I had more time. I thought I was safe here. Tom reached across the table, stopping just short of touching her hand. You are safe here. But we need to be smart about this. If he's asking around town, someone might mention this ranch, might mention seeing a woman out here. Then I have to leave. Right now. Before he comes. Rachel stood up, already thinking about packing. She'd take only what she could carry. Leave on foot if she had to. Sit down, Tom said firmly. You're not going anywhere in this weather. And you're not running scared with nowhere to go. But if he comes here, we'll deal with it. Together. Rachel stared at him. Why are you doing this? You don't owe me anything. I'm not your problem. You're not a problem, Rachel. You're a person, a friend. And friends don't abandon each other when things get hard. Something in Rachel broke. She'd been so alone for so long, fighting everything by herself. And here was this man, this quiet rancher who barely knew her, saying he'd stand with her, that she wasn't alone. What if he's dangerous? She asked. What if helping me puts you in danger? Then we call the sheriff. But let's not jump to conclusions. Maybe he'll ask around town, not find anything, and leave. Maybe this will blow over. But Rachel knew better. She knew Brian. He didn't give up, not ever. If he'd tracked her this far, he wouldn't stop until he found her. Or until she found a way to stop him. That night, Rachel barely slept. Every sound outside made her jump. Every creak of the house settling made her heart race. She kept imagining Brian showing up, banging on the door, demanding Tom hand her over. The next morning, Tom made a suggestion. We should have a plan. Just in case. You need to know where to hide if someone shows up. And we need a signal. Something I can say that lets you know to run. They spent the morning working it out. The storm cellar out back would be the hiding spot. It was old, built into a hillside covered with snow. Nobody would think to look there unless they knew it existed. Tom cleared a path to it, disguised with branches and old wood. If I say better check on the back fence, that's your signal, Tom said. Get to the cellar and stay there until I come get you. Rachel memorized it. Back fence. Go to the cellar, wait. They went back to work, but everything felt different now. The peace was gone. Rachel was looking over her shoulder constantly, jumping at shadows. She hated it. Hated that Brian could steal her peace even from 200 miles away. A week passed. Then another. No one came. No more reports from town about a man asking questions. Rachel started to relax slightly. Maybe Tom was right. Maybe Brian had moved on. Then came the day that changed everything. Rachel was in the barn with Rosie when she heard a vehicle coming up the drive. Not Tom's truck. The engine sounded different. Higher pitched. She went to the barn door and looked out. A rental car was pulling up to the cabin. A man got out, tall, brown hair, expensive coat. Brian thought Rachel's legs almost gave out. He'd found her. After all this time, all this distance, he'd found her. Her first instinct was to run, to get to the cellar like Tom had said, but she was frozen, watching through the crack in the barn door as Brian walked up to the cabin and knocked. The front door opened. Tom stepped out, closing the door behind him. Rachel couldn't hear what they were saying, but she could see Tom's body language. Calm, controlled. Keeping himself between Brian and the door. Brian was gesturing, probably showing Tom the photo. Asking if he'd seen her. Tom shook his head. Said something. Brian looked frustrated, angry. His jaw was tight the way it got when he was about to lose his temper. Rachel's phone was in the cabin. She couldn't call for help. Couldn't do anything but watch. Her breath was coming in short gasps. Panic building. Brian pulled something from his pocket. Money. He was trying to bribe Tom, offering him cash for information. Rachel knew that move. Brian thought everyone had a price. Tom stepped back, his hands up, shaking his head more firmly now, pointing toward his truck, telling Brian to leave. Rachel could see Tom's stance change, becoming more defensive. Ready for trouble. Brian's face turned red. He was yelling now. Rachel could hear his voice carrying across the yard, angry and demanding. He took a step toward Tom, getting in his face. That's when Tom put his hand on Brian's chest, stopping him. Saying something low and firm. Brian looked shocked. Nobody ever stood up to him. Nobody ever said no. For a long moment, the two men stood there facing off. Rachel held her breath, waiting to see what would happen next. This was it. Her past had finally caught up with her, and nothing would ever be the same again. Rachel watched from the barn as Brian took another step toward Tom. Her hands were shaking so badly she had to grip the barn door to steady herself. This was exactly what she'd feared. Brian's anger, his refusal to back down. And now Tom was in the middle of it. Tom didn't move. Didn't step back. He stood his ground, solid as the mountains behind him. Rachel couldn't hear the words, but she could see Tom pointing toward the road, telling Brian to leave. His posture was calm but firm. This was his property. His rules, Brian was shouting now. Rachel could hear fragments. My wife writes, lying to me. Tom said something back. Low and controlled. Then he pulled out his phone and held it up. The message was clear. Leave or I call the sheriff. For a moment, Brian looked like he might do something stupid. His fists clenched. His face was that dangerous shade of red Rachel knew too well. The color that meant he was about to explode. But Tom didn't flinch. He just stood there, phone in hand, waiting. Finally, Brian backed down. He jabbed his finger at Tom, saying something threatening. Then he turned and stormed back to his car. Gravel sprayed as he peeled out, speeding down the long driveway and disappearing from sight. Tom stood there for a long moment, watching to make sure he was really gone. Then he turned and walked toward the barn. Rachel stepped back into the shadows, her whole body trembling. Tom opened the barn door and found her there, pale and shaking. He's gone, Tom said quietly. For now. Rachel's voice cracked. He'll come back. You don't know him like I do. He doesn't give up. Come inside. We need to talk. They walked back to the cabin, Rachel checking over her shoulder every few seconds. Inside, Tom poured them both coffee. Rachel's hands shook so much she could barely hold the cup. What did he say? She asked. Tom sat down across from her. He said you were his wife. That you'd left without warning and he was worried about you. That you weren't well. Needed medication. Rachel's jaw dropped. That's a lie. I'm not on any medication. I'm not sick. I know. He was laying it on thick, trying to make himself look like the concerned husband. Said he just wanted to talk to you, make sure you were safe. And when you said I wasn't here, he didn't believe me. Offered me money to tell him where you were. $2,000. Then $5,000. Like everyone has a price, Rachel felt sick. That was so like Brian. Everything was a transaction to him. Everything could be bought or controlled or manipulated. I told him I don't know any, Rachel, Tom continued, that I live alone, that he needed to leave my property. That's when he got angry. Yeah, started making threats, said he'd come back with police, that he'd have me arrested for harboring a fugitive or some nonsense. I told him to do what he had to do, but he needed to leave. That's when I pulled out my phone. Rachel set down her coffee cup. Tom, I'm so sorry. I never wanted to drag you into this. I should leave. Go somewhere else before he comes back. You're not going anywhere. And yes, he dragged me into this the moment he showed up on my property making demands. But he could cause trouble for you. He's good at that. He has money, connections. He could make your life miserable. Tom leaned back in his chair. Rachel, I've been divorced, lost both parents, nearly lost this ranch twice to bad loans and worse weather. I've been through misery. Some guy showing up and making threats doesn't scare me. You don't understand. Brian doesn't give up. He'll dig into your life, find every mistake you've ever made, use it against you. That's what he does. Let him try. I've got nothing to hide. Tom paused. But you're right about one thing. He will come back. We need to be ready. How? Tom thought for a moment. First, we document everything. I'll write down exactly what happened today. What he said, what I said, everything. Then we call the sheriff. No. Rachel stood up. No police. Brian knows people. He'll make me look crazy. He'll say I'm unstable, that I need help. He's done it before when I tried to talk to his friends about what was happening. They all thought I was the problem. This isn't his friends. This is the law. And you're not asking for help because you're unstable. You're reporting harassment, trespassing. That's different. Rachel paced the room. What if they don't believe me? What if they take his side? Then we'll deal with that. But Rachel, you can't keep running. You can't keep hiding. At some point, you have to stand your ground. You have to say no more. Stand your ground. Easy words. Hard action. Rachel had spent years backing down, apologizing, making herself smaller. The thought of standing up to Brian terrified her, but Tom was right. She couldn't run forever, and maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to face Brian alone. Okay, Rachel said finally. We call the sheriff. But I'm scared, I know. But you're also brave. You've already done the hardest part, you left. Everything else is just details. They called the sheriff's office that afternoon. A deputy came out the next day, a woman named Officer Martinez. She was in her 40s, professional but kind. She listened to Tom's account of what happened, made notes, asked questions, then she turned to Rachel. And you are? Rachel hesitated. This was it. The moment she had to decide. Keep hiding or step into the light. My name is Rachel Bennett. The man who came here yesterday is my husband. I left him 3 months ago because he was controlling and emotionally aggressive. I don't want him to find me. I don't want contact with him. Officer Martinez wrote this down. Has he ever hurt you physically? No, but he's threatened to. He punches walls, throws things, breaks stuff when he's angry. He's told me I'm worthless, that nobody else would want me, that I'd be nothing without him. He controlled where I went, who I talked to, what I wore. Everything. That's psychological mistreatment, Officer Martinez said gently. It's a serious issue. Have you filed for divorce? Rachel shook her head. I was afraid to. Afraid he'd fight it. Afraid of what he'd do. I understand, but you have rights. You can file for divorce. You can request a restraining order. There are resources available. Will that stop him from coming back here? Tom asked. If he violates a restraining order, he can be arrested. It's not a perfect solution, but it's protection. It puts the law on your side. Rachel thought about it. A restraining order. Official paperwork saying Brian had to stay away from her. It sounded good. But she knew Brian. He didn't care about rules. He made his own rules. Still, it was better than nothing. It was a start. What do I need to do? Rachel asked. Officer Martinez pulled out some papers. First, we'll file a report about yesterday's incident. That creates a record. Then I can help you petition for a restraining order. We'll need details about your marriage, about his behavior. The more documentation we have, the stronger the case. Over the next 2 hours, Rachel told her story. All of it. The years of control. The isolation, the fear. It was exhausting, painful, but also freeing. She was finally saying out loud what she'd kept hidden for so long. When Officer Martinez left, she promised to follow up. to check in regularly. She gave Rachel her direct number. Call me anytime, day or night. If he shows up again, you call me immediately. That night, Rachel felt different, lighter somehow. She'd stood up. She'd told the truth. She'd asked for help. These were things the old Rachel couldn't have done. But she wasn't the old Rachel anymore. She was becoming someone new, someone stronger. Tom made dinner while Rachel sat at the table, still processing everything. When he set down her plate, she looked up at him. Thank you, she said, for standing up to him, for not backing down, for believing me. Tom sat down across from her. You don't have to thank me for doing what's right. That's just basic human decency. Not everyone sees it that way. Then not everyone is worth knowing. They ate in comfortable silence. Outside the sun was setting, painting the snow orange and pink. Beautiful and peaceful. But Rachel knew the peace wouldn't last. Brian wasn't done. He'd made that clear. This was just the beginning of a much longer fight. At least now she wasn't fighting alone. 2 weeks after Brian's visit, the restraining order came through. Rachel held the papers in her hands, reading them over and over. Brian was legally required to stay at least 500 feet away from her. No contact, no phone calls, no showing up wherever she was. If he violated it, he could be arrested. It was just paper. But it felt like armor. How do you feel? Tom asked. They were sitting on the porch watching the sunset. The weather was warming up. Snow was melting. Signs of spring everywhere. Scared, Rachel admitted, but also stronger. Does that make sense? Perfect sense. Rachel folded the papers carefully. I filed for divorce too. Yesterday. Officer Martinez helped me find a lawyer who does free consultations. She says I have a good case, that the judge will likely grant the divorce even if Brian contests it. That's good news. Brian's going to be so angry. Rachel's voice shook slightly. The restraining order. The divorce. He's going to see it as a betrayal. As me trying to humiliate him. Tom rocked in his chair, his voice calm. He can be angry all he wants. He can't do anything about it. Not legally, but he might do something illegal. Then he goes to jail. Problem solved. Rachel wished she had Tom's confidence, his steady assurance that everything would work out. But she'd lived with Brian's anger too long to believe it was that simple. Still, she was trying. Really trying. The lawyer, a woman named Patricia Chen, was smart and no nonsense. She'd listened to Rachel's story without judgment. Asked detailed questions about the marriage. About Brian's behavior. About their finances. He controlled all the money, Rachel had explained. I didn't have access to the bank accounts. He gave me an allowance for groceries. That's it. If I needed anything else, I had to ask permission. Patricia had nodded, making notes. That's financial mistreatment. Combined with the psychological aggression and control, you have a strong case. We'll ask for a fair division of marital assets. You're entitled to half of everything accumulated during the marriage. Half of everything. Rachel hadn't even thought about money. She just wanted out. But Patricia was right. She'd need resources to start over. To build a new life. What if he hides the money? Rachel had asked. Transfers it somewhere I can't find it? Then we get forensic accountants involved. Trust me, I've done this many times. We'll find it. Now sitting on Tom's porch with the restraining order in her hands, Rachel felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Real, tangible hope that she could actually win this, that she could be free. The next few weeks were a blur of paperwork and phone calls. Patricia worked fast, filing motions, requesting financial records, building the case. Brian's lawyer responded with angry letters claiming Rachel had abandoned the marriage, that she was mentally unstable, that she'd stolen their car. It's all noise, Patricia assured her. Standard tactics, trying to make you look bad. But we have documentation. We have Officer Martinez's report. We have your testimony. The truth is on our side. Rachel also started seeing a counselor. Another resource Officer Martinez had connected her with. A woman named Dr. Lisa Howard who specialized in helping people recover from difficult relationships. You've been through trauma, Dr. Howard said in their first session. Even if he never hit you, what you experienced was real harm. Your healing will take time. The counseling sessions were hard. Rachel had to talk about things she'd buried deep. Had to admit how much damage had been done. How long it would take to trust herself again. To believe she had value. But it was also freeing. Every session felt like peeling off a layer of old skin. Becoming someone new underneath, Tom noticed the changes. "You're different," he said one evening after Rachel got back from a session. Standing taller. Speaking louder. "I'm trying," Rachel said. "Some days are harder than others, but I'm trying. That's all anyone can do." One afternoon, Tom took Rachel into town. She'd been avoiding it, afraid of running into Brian. But Tom convinced her she couldn't hide forever. "You have a right to go where you want," he said. "Don't let fear run your life." They went to the feed store first, then the grocery store. Rachel kept her head up, made eye contact with people. Some folks stared. Small towns loved gossip. They'd heard about the woman staying at Tom Morrison's ranch. The one with the restraining order against her husband. Let them stare. Let them talk. Rachel was done caring what people thought. At the coffee shop, they ran into Officer Martinez. She was off duty getting a latte. She smiled when she saw Rachel. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "Better. Taking it day by day. That's the way to do it. Hey, I heard through the grapevine that your husband left town. Checked out of his hotel last week. Hasn't been back since." Rachel's heart jumped. "He's gone?" "Looks like it. Probably got his lawyer's advice not to violate the restraining order. But stay vigilant. People like that sometimes try to wait you out. Wait until you relax, then come back." Rachel nodded. She wouldn't let her guard down. But knowing Brian was gone, at least for now, felt like she could breathe a little easier. Back at the ranch, Rachel threw herself into work. Spring meant more to do, fences to repair after the winter damage, fields to prepare for planting. New foals being born. She loved the baby horses, their wobbly legs and curious eyes. One evening, Tom found her in the barn with one of the new foals. A little black colt with a white star on his forehead. "He likes you," Tom said, watching the foal nuzzle Rachel's hand. "I like him too. What are you going to name him?" "Haven't decided yet. You got any ideas?" Rachel thought about it. This little colt, born into the end of winter, starting his life just as everything was waking up. Just as she was waking up. "Hope," she said. "I think you should call him Hope." Tom smiled. "Hope it is." The divorce proceedings moved forward. Brian contested everything, just like Rachel knew he would. Claimed she'd abandoned him without cause. Claimed she'd taken money that wasn't hers. Claimed all sorts of lies, but Patricia fought back hard. She presented the restraining order. Officer Martinez's report about Brian showing up at the ranch. Statements from Rachel's old neighbors about Brian's controlling behavior. Even testimony from Rachel's mother, who'd been kept away from Rachel for years because Brian said she was a bad influence. "The judge is seeing through his act," Patricia told Rachel after one hearing. "She's not buying his victim routine. We're going to win this." Win, such a simple word, but it meant everything. It meant freedom, independence, a future. 4 months after Rachel had stumbled into Tom's cabin during that blizzard, she stood in a courtroom and heard the judge grant her divorce. The marriage was dissolved. Assets were divided fairly. Brian was ordered to pay Rachel her portion within 30 days. Rachel walked out of that courthouse with her head high. It was over. She was free. Tom was waiting outside, leaning against his truck. When he saw her face, he smiled. "How'd it go?" "I won." Rachel felt tears coming, but they were good tears. Relief tears. "It's over. I'm free." Tom opened his arms and Rachel stepped into a hug. A friendly, supportive, no-strings-attached hug. The kind she'd needed for so long. "I'm proud of you," Tom said quietly. "You did it. You fought back and you won." Rachel pulled back, wiping her eyes. "I couldn't have done it without you. Without your help. Your support. Believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself. You had it in you all along. You just needed a safe place to find it." They drove back to the ranch in comfortable silence. The sun was shining. Birds were singing. The world felt new and full of possibility. Rachel wasn't sure what came next. She had some money now from the divorce settlement. Enough to start over somewhere. To get her own place. Find a job. Build a life. But she wasn't ready to leave the ranch yet. Wasn't ready to leave Tom. He'd become more than just the man who'd saved her from the storm. He was her friend. Her partner. Someone she trusted completely. Maybe she'd stay through spring. Help with the season's work. Figure out her next steps. Or maybe, just maybe, she'd already found where she belonged. Time would tell. But for the first time in years, Rachel had time. She had freedom. She had herself back, and that was enough. 6 months had passed since that snowy night when Rachel stumbled onto Tom's porch. Now it was late spring, heading into summer. The world had completely transformed. Where there had been snow, now there were wildflowers, purple lupines and yellow balsam root covering the meadows. The creek was running high with snowmelt. Birds were everywhere, building nests and singing. Rachel was transformed too. When she looked in the mirror now, she saw someone different. Someone with sun-touched skin and strong arms. Someone who met her own eyes without flinching. Someone who smiled more than she frowned. The settlement money from the divorce had come through. $50,000. Not a fortune, but enough to give her options. She could rent an apartment in town, buy a car, start over somewhere new. She had choices now. Freedom. But every morning when she woke up in that small bedroom in Tom's cabin, looked out at the mountains turning pink with sunrise, she didn't want to be anywhere else. Tom had never asked her to stay. Never pressured her. He treated her the same as always, respectful and kind. They'd fallen into a comfortable partnership working the ranch together. But lately Rachel had noticed small things. The way Tom's eyes would linger on her sometimes. The way he'd find excuses to be near her. The way he'd smile when she laughed, and she felt it too. Something growing between them. Something more than friendship. But neither of them had said anything. Both too cautious, maybe. Both carrying their own scars. One evening in early June, they were sitting on the porch after a long day of work. Tom had grilled steaks. Rachel had made a salad from the garden she'd planted. They were drinking beer and watching the sunset like they did most nights. "I've been thinking," Rachel said carefully, "about what's next for me." Tom's expression didn't change, but she saw his shoulders tense slightly. "And? I could get my own place. There's that apartment above the feed store. Mrs. Chen said it's available." "That's true. Or I could find something in a bigger town. Maybe Billings. More job opportunities there." Tom nodded slowly. "You could do that." Rachel took a breath. "Or I could stay here. If you wanted, if you needed help with the ranch. I'm pretty good with the horses now. And I can fix fences better than most people, and my cooking's improved." Tom turned to look at her. Really look at her. "Is that what you want? To stay?" "I think so. If it's okay with you. I could pay rent. Help with expenses. I have money now from the settlement." "I don't want your money, Rachel." "Then what do you want?" The question hung in the air between them. Tom set down his beer and turned his chair to face her fully. "I want you to stay because you want to. Not because you feel like you owe me something. Not because you're afraid to be on your own. But because this is where you want to be." Rachel's heart was pounding. "And if it is? If this is where I want to be? Then stay." They looked at each other, and Rachel saw something in Tom's eyes that made her breath catch. Something warm and real, not the desperate need that Brian had always shown, the possessive hunger. This was different. This was choice, respect, something equal. "There's something else," Tom said quietly. "Something I need to say. And if it makes you uncomfortable, just tell me and we'll never talk about it again." "Okay. I've grown to care about you. More than just as a friend or a ranch hand. These past months, working with you, talking with you, just being around you. It's made me realize how much I'd been just going through the motions before. You've brought life back to this place." To me, Rachel felt tears starting. Good tears. "Tom, I'm not saying we need to jump into anything. You've been through a lot. You're still healing. But I wanted you to know, so you can make an informed decision about staying." Rachel reached over and took his hand. His calloused, strong, gentle hand. "I care about you too. I think I have for a while now. But I was scared. Scared of messing up what we have. Scared of getting into something new when the old thing ended so badly. That's understandable. But this is different. You're different. You've shown me what respect looks like. What partnership looks like. You've never tried to control me or change me. You've just let me be myself. Let me heal. Let me grow." Tom squeezed her hand. "You did that yourself, Rachel. I just provided the space, and you provided more than that. You provided safety, friendship, trust. Things I didn't even know I needed until I found them here." They sat there holding hands, watching the sun sink behind the mountains. The sky turned orange, then pink, then purple. Stars started appearing one by one. "So what do we do now?" Tom asked. Rachel smiled. "We take it slow. We keep working together. We see where it goes. No pressure, no expectations. Just see what happens. I can do slow." "Me too." Over the next few weeks, things between them shifted in small, subtle ways. Tom started touching her more casual touches, a hand on her back when he passed her, helping her down from a horse with both hands on her waist. Sitting closer on the porch in the evenings, Rachel found herself looking for excuses to be near him. Bringing him coffee in the morning, brushing imaginary dirt off his shirt, laughing more at his jokes. They were courting, Rachel realized. Old-fashioned courting. Taking their time, learning each other in this new way. One night in July, under a sky full of stars, Tom kissed her. It was soft and sweet and everything Rachel didn't know a kiss could be. No demand, no possession, just warmth and affection and promise. "Is this okay?" Tom asked, pulling back slightly. Rachel answered by kissing him again. They took their time with everything. No rushing. Rachel needed that. Needed to know that this was her choice. That she could say stop at any moment and Tom would respect it. And he did. Every time. By the end of summer, Rachel had officially become Tom's partner. Not just in the ranch, but in life. They talked about making it legal eventually, getting married, but there was no rush. They had time. Rachel still saw Dr. Howard once a month. Still had hard days when old fears crept in. But Tom was patient, understanding. He'd been through his own pain. He knew healing wasn't linear. Rachel also reconnected with her mother. They talked on the phone every week. Her mother cried the first time they talked, apologizing for not doing more to help. But Rachel didn't blame her. Brian had been good at keeping them apart. Good at manipulation. "I'm just glad you're safe," her mother said. "And happy. That's all I ever wanted for you." Rachel was happy. Truly happy. She woke up each morning excited for the day. Excited to work with the horses. To fix fences and mend tack. To cook dinner with Tom. To sit on the porch and watch the sunset. She'd found her place. Her purpose. Her person. One October morning, almost exactly a year after she'd first arrived, Rachel stood in the pasture watching Hope, the colt she'd named, running with the other young horses. He was strong and healthy, all legs and energy. Growing into himself, just like her. Tom came up beside her, putting his arm around her shoulders. "What are you thinking about?" "About how much can change in a year, how different everything is now." "Good different? The best different." Rachel leaned into him. "A year ago I was running for my life, scared, broken, lost. Now I'm standing here with you, watching Hope run free, and I'm not scared anymore. I'm not lost. I found myself. I found home." Tom kissed the top of her head. "You built this, Rachel. You did the hard work. You fought for yourself. You created this life. We created it. Together." And that was the truth. Rachel had done the work of healing. Had fought for her freedom and won. But she hadn't done it alone. Tom had given her the space and safety to become herself again. To find her strength. Now they were building something new. A partnership, a life. A future. The ranch was thriving. They'd bought 3 more horses. Were planning to start giving riding lessons in the spring. Building something together. As they walked back to the cabin, Rachel thought about that desperate girl who'd knocked on Tom's door in the middle of a blizzard. How scared she'd been. How hopeless. If she could talk to that girl now, what would she say? "You're going to be okay. More than okay. You're going to be happy. You're going to find strength you didn't know you had. You're going to build a life you love, and most importantly, you're going to survive this. You're going to be free." Rachel had been that girl. And now she was this woman. Strong, independent, loved and loving. Free. The journey from there to here hadn't been easy. There had been fear and pain and hard choices. But every